Hello, beautiful souls. For those of you who celebrate it, Merry Christmas. And for those who don't, happy Saturday. Is it Saturday? I think it is. No, it's Sunday. So yeah, part of the thing that's so interesting about Neo-Advaita is it's so hard to spot that it's bullshit. Like that's what makes Neo-Advaita, that's the whole reason for this channel, right? Like if Neo-Advaita was easy to spot and let go of, like I or someone else would just make a video and be like, da 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 da, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, and then we'd just be done with it. But Neo-Advaita is so slick and cunning and sticky and hard to let go of. As I've shared, and I'll probably never get tired of sharing, because it really highlights the stickiness. I realized in 2004 that Neo-Advaita was not true and not healthy for me. And I was not able to even begin to leave it until 2018. And then that's when I just was like, okay, I need to. And then it's literally took me 4 more years to leave behind the major pieces of it. I'm still unwinding it. Neo-Advaita is a complete brainwashing, really, truly. I'm making a list of all the distorted Neo-Advaita beliefs I've uncovered, and it's just like vast. It's very vast. So today, what I felt inspired to talk about, and hi to my live viewer, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to type them in. And by the way, warm welcome to anyone who's new to this channel. And my definition of Neo-Advaita is very simple. It has 2 main variations. 1, just inquire, and that will solve all your problems. Just practice self-inquiry. Or 2, you're already enlightened, so there's nothing to do. Those are the 2 main themes of Neo-Advaita. So this morning, and I'm just struck by how long it took me to see, to let go of, to see through and let go of the nonsense. And I'm still in the process. I think the major parts are like out, but I'm still unwinding some of the minor threads, and there's many. It's like a spider web, really. And so what came to mind today was to share a little bit about Neo-Buddhism and Neo-Christianity and see how that can help us to see clearly Neo-Advaita. So Neo-Buddhism is a term I've come up with. I don't know that anyone else has used it, but basically it's Buddhist language that isn't actually Buddhism, but is pretending to be Buddhism. And I heard it, I just heard it so clearly from this person who was like a Buddhist coach. They weren't like an official Buddhist teacher, but they were very well respected and have a little bit of a name. Not a big fry by any means, but so I was thinking about working with this person because I was very impressed by them, how they showed up during their public teachings. Completely different person on the phone, one-on-one. So that was my first red flag, is like, oh my God, this person's putting on a show. And I also realized, and I've realized this before, but this really brought it home, until you've hung out with a person, a spiritual teacher, you don't actually know them. And even if you hang out with them, they still may be putting on a show, but a lot of spiritual teachers put on a show. So talking to this person one-on-one, I began to be like, wait a minute, this person's completely different than how they present themselves when they're teaching, like night and day different. And the second red flag, when I was talking, it's really funny. I was talking to this person about the Eightfold Path, which is the traditional Buddhist path, and like, oh, how I really want to, focus on the first 2 steps of it, because I consider those the foundation. And I'm looking for someone to help me with that. And he didn't quite lose his shit, but he was kind of like, well, those are just part of the path, and it's very important to meditate. In Buddhism, the path is kind of in order, but it's not strictly in order, but meditation really comes last. And it's just like Neo-Advaita. People skip the preliminaries and hop right just to the final steps. He's like, well, it's very important to meditate. And here's the real kicker. He said, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this teaching of the Buddha, but the Buddha said the Dharma, the teaching, the path, is like a raft. And once you cross once you use the raft to cross a river, and then when you get to the other side, you don't continue to carry the raft with you. So it's very important to not get too fixated on the Dharma and just to be in the present moment. Now, on the surface, this sounds so wise. So wise, like, hey, I don't want to let the teaching interfere with me being in the present moment. Like, there's wisdom and truth to that. Like, any teaching can become a problem. But that's not what the Buddha taught or meant, or what Buddhist practitioners have understood that to mean. What they've understood that to mean is, once you're enlightened, the river is suffering and samsara. And once you are enlightened, then you don't need to carry the raft anymore. Then you put it down and you're done with it. It's a beautiful teaching to really sit with and reflect with. But listen to how this guy, so he's talking to me. I haven't crossed the river. I'm still suffering. I'm reaching out to him because I'm suffering. And I'm reaching out, asking for guidance on the Buddhist path. And this person's like, oh, well, don't let the Buddhist teaching interfere. Like, you can put just be in the present moment, and then you can put the raft down. It's just like Neo-Advaita. Just inquire and everything will be all right. Or there's nothing to do because you're already enlightened. Like, the Neo-Advaita version of that story would be, you've already crossed the river. Put that, burn that raft. So it's an absurd. It has nothing to do with Buddhism. It has to do with this person's taking Buddhist language and then crafting their own thing, and then worse, pretending that it's Buddhism, pretending that it's in alignment with what the Buddha actually taught. Hence, we have Neo-Buddhism. So, Neo-Christianity. So, very briefly, in the first couple hundred years of Christianity, it wasn't so much a unified phenomenon. There were six main by about 200 or so AD or CE. There were about six main churches, and they had some significant theological differences. And then came the rise of the Catholic Orthodox Church, and it was not 100%, but it was very theologically there was a lot of coherence, and then there was a split, and then that coherence kind of widened. But there was, so I'm giving a very brief history of Christianity, and and then around 1600 came Martin Luther. And so the Catholic Church became the predominant, the Eastern Orthodox but in essence, there were kind of two churches. And then along comes Martin Luther, and he protests that the Catholic Church is incorrect, and he really creates his own thing. And one of the cornerstones of what he taught was that salvation is through faith alone, that what we do, that we can't earn faith, that in essence, what we do doesn't have anything to do with salvation. And so this is called Protestantism, because he was protesting the Catholic Church. Hi to my live viewer. So this has evolved into the modern version of accept Jesus into your heart and you're saved. Like, that's it. Forget everything else. The thing is if you believe that doctrine to be true, you basically have to throw away, 1600 years of Christian history, but you also have to throw away the majority of the Bible. There's like, maybe 5 or 10 verses in the Bible that could be used to justify this belief. All you need to do is accept Jesus, and then you're saved. But to put that interpretation on them, you have to throw away the rest of the Bible and the rest of Christian history. Welcome to my live viewers. I'm sharing how Neo-Christianity can help us understand Neo-Advaita. So that's exactly what Neo-Advaita has done. It's fixated on a few statements, usually of Ramana Maharshi, occasionally some other scripture, and then it throws away the rest. And then it's like, this is the truth. This is all you need. It literally attacks the tradition that it's built upon and comes from. That's what this I don't want to call him a teacher, this person I was talking to about Buddhism, this mentor or coach or whatever. That's what Protestant Christianity has done, is like, forget everything else, just fixate on this one thing. And that's what Neo-Advaita has done, is again, one of two. Basically, Neo-Advaita has created an idol, right? And it's put this idol before everything else. And there's really two idols, depending on the type of Neo-Advaita. Just inquire, and that will solve all your problems, or you're already enlightened, so there's nothing to do. But the reason why Neo-Advaita is so sticky, so these other two are just kind of doctrines, right? That what this Neo-Buddhist teaching this guy gave me, and Protestantism, like it's a doctrine. But what makes Neo-Advaita so sticky is if you practice it, you will have an actual spiritual experience. You'll have a taste of something very sacred and something very special. And so then it's easy to draw the false conclusion. And of course, the teacher, the quote teacher, will buffer that conclusion. You're on the right path. That's the truth. Just keep doing what you're doing, etc. And that's why, I started off this video by saying Neo-Advaita is so hard to extricate yourself from, because it's based in an experience. And then based on that experience, false interpretations are weaved. And the next thing you know, this thing which is supposed to be about going beyond the mind, it's like this complicated web of untrue beliefs, such as the world doesn't exist, such as all that matters is enlightenment, such as it doesn't matter what you do, such as you have no free will, such as life has no meaning. It just goes on and on and on and on. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that helps people unwind their Neo-Advaita brainwashing, the web, a little bit. Thanks so much for joining in. Once again, to those who celebrate, a Merry Christmas. And to those who don't, Happy Sunday. Take care.